are hot off the heels of Halloween Havoc and speeding towards Full Gear. Welcome everyone to AEW Dynamite, and we have plenty happening tonight. We certainly do, JR. After overcoming in the Machine Brian Cage in that lights out match at Halloween Havoc, Cody is here tonight and has an offer for Cage. That should be interesting. Also, I'll be overseeing the contract signing to make the AEW Women's Championship match at Full Gear official between Shida and Toni Storm. And after successfully defeating Wardlow in a steel cage at Halloween Havoc, the AEW World Champion Jon Moxley is in action tonight against none other than the Inner Circle Sammy Guevara. A lot to get through, so let's get things started. So Pac's music begins to play as we transition into the next segment. We are in front of 6,777 fans, and this is confirmation of the show ahead. So Cody has an offer for the Machine Brian Cage. Also, we'll have the AEW Women's Championship contract signing between Toni Storm, who overcame 9 other women in that Battle Royale at Halloween Havoc, and also Jon Moxley, the AEW Champion. He will not stop. He is in action yet again, but this time against Sammy Guevara. So, Pac comes out after we saw the announcers at the commentary desk. Pac comes to the ring with his TNT Championship around his waist, looking ready for action. He picks up a mic, goes on to say, "So Halloween Havoc didn't go quite as planned for Death Triangle. Penta is pissed. He was ruled out, but the thing is with Death Triangle, we don't sit back and just accept defeat like some of the nobodies backstage would. We will keep on fighting until our very last breath. We will keep fighting until we get what we deserve. I myself will keep fighting, and as a matter of fact, I have to keep fighting because those pen pushers backstage have told me I have to keep defending my TNT title every week at the request of TNT themselves. I know you're watching, and I hope you're happy, because when I'm done, there will be no one left on the AEW roster. Hell, Dynamite might be no more. So come on, throw anyone you have at me, and let's get this over with." New music is heard. We see on the Tron a tank and a heart. I think we all know what that is. This segment gets to 79 after a strong start here. And it is, of course, Brian Pillman Jr. making his AEW debut. And what a match. In about that, had good heat, decent wrestling. Pac does overcome Brian Pillman in 1803. A handful of tights. So it makes Brian Pillman look a little bit stronger instead of it being a decisive win. Pac with an in-ring performance of 74. Pillman with a 55. He has that loose cannon gimmick. Got an initial rating of great, which is fantastic to see. 72 for this. It got the match. The match got the crowd buzzing, I should say. And that, for me, is a great way to start Dynamite. That's something that we see a lot of nowadays. It's a pattern, Dynamite, they like to start off with a fantastic match. Anyway, we roll into the next segment. Footage is shown taken from after the street fight at Halloween Havoc. Everyone is gone and it's just Matt Hardy stood there looking at the spot in which Darby Allin fell after crashing through the window. Ah, yes. Matt Hardy seems to be going through all the motions. Sad, angry, disappointed. He starts transitioning between different entities. First, Damascus. Then I Will Not Die, Matt Hardy. Then Big Money Matt. And V1 Nah, Matt. And he finishes by raising a makeshift gun with his fingers and screams, "Oh!" as you can imagine. And then the camera moves away and leaves Matt Hardy on his own. So going through the motions, it's not looking good for Matt Hardy at the moment. As we move into our next match of the evening, it's between Sarah Rowe and former AEW Women's Champion Riho. But it's Sarah Rowe that defeats her in 6:45 after a split-legged moonsault. Sarah Rowe with the better in-ring performance of a 47. It's great to see this match getting a 46, actually. Again, constantly going on about, better in the women's division. And this is really just the start. And as planned, this match did bring the crowd down slightly, so we started off strongly, we've calmed them. And after the match, with Riho hurting in the middle of the ring, Sarah Rowe goes over to the corner and picks up an old-looking dish that she brought to the ring with her. She takes it over to Riho, dips 3 fingers inside. When they emerge, they are covered in what looks like blood. She paints her 3 fingers over the face of Riho and looks like she's in a trance, and it sounds like she's chanting something. Finally, she gets up and leaves. So Sarah Rowe really embracing this lifestyle of being a Viking, or more aptly as a Shield maiden. We'll have to wait and see what the outcome is with that. At the top of the entranceway, a table is set up and Tony Schiavone is stood there with a mic in hand. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the contract signing for the AEW Women's Championship match at Full Gear, which we will see Toni Storm challenge Hikaru Shida for her title. So please, welcome both challenger and champion. And both Shida and Storm walk out, very respectable of one another. Okay, ladies, it seems that Storm takes the mic off Tony and says, "Look, Shida, I respect everything you have done so far in this business. I respect the mountains you have climbed, and I'm glad to be able to call you a friend already, and I've only known you for a few weeks now. At Full Gear, though, I'm coming for that title. It's just business, just so you know." Shida replies, "Good luck." Storm signs the contract before Shida can. She gets attacked by Nyla Rose from behind. Rose is too powerful for Storm to stop her, and then Rose puts Shida through the table with a powerbomb. We've seen that a few times already, and Nyla Rose just walks off laughing. Toni Storm at the aid of Hikaru Shida. We get a 45 for this segment rating, that's good to see. Probably because just because of the inclusion of Toni Storm, I think. She is looking at her attributes, leaps and bounds above the rest of the women on the AEW roster that we've got going in the series so far. So, the contract hasn't been signed by Shida. As we move into the next segment, backstage we see Chris Jericho talking to Sammy Guevara. "Tonight, Sammy, you take on that dipshit Moxley. This is your chance to get back to winning ways. It's the perfect chance to refocus and put everything that's happened this past month behind you." Sammy Guevara listens, agrees, nods his head. All Mr. Confident, Mr. Arrogant, you know, everything that Sammy Guevara is. It's great segment rating of a 78. Jericho coming across well. Jericho worked the crowd well. The angle getting the crowd hotter. Jericho benefiting from having a hot catchphrase, although I haven't used any catchphrase here. But there we go. Maybe dipshit can fall under that. Don't think it really matters. But anyway, a 78 for that segment. Fantastic. As we move into a random match, just throwing this one in there, you know. I hate doing that. I hate doing it. And I do need to change my style of approach, really, when it comes to booking. But Ricky Starks against Orange Cassidy. Cassidy does defeat Ricky Starks. He hasn't had the best of starts here in AEW, Ricky Starks, after that promising promo that we had a couple of weeks ago. And now he's just, well, fallen from grace. Really lost that shine, lost that edge, as you'd expect from someone that's debuted in a new company, new surroundings and all that. But that's decent. A 56 between Starks and Cassidy. Cassidy, the better performer, with the 61 there as we move into our next segment. We are backstage in the Elite Locker Room, where we see Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega. They seem to be discussing what happened at Halloween Havoc when both Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler walk in. The Elite seem jumpy. Dax goes on to say, "Hey, steady now, we're not here to fight yet. We wanted to say thanks for that 8-man tag the other week. Yeah, we don't do flips and shit, but I can see what the appeal is. You killed it out there, and I thought we made quite the team." Cash, "Yeah, so to say thanks, we bought you an ice cooler stocked with some cold ones. Enjoy." Both Dax and Cash walk out, leaving the ice cooler. Matt looks at Nick and says quietly, Don't they know I'm Christian AF?" Kenny Omega is sat in the corner with what looks like a slight twitch. Something seems to be getting to him. Then Hangman walks in and says, "Hey dude, who left this?" Whoever it is, they must be real cool. Kenny can be seen slowly balling his hands into fists, his knuckles turning white. Oh boy, what is going to happen here with the Elite, with the tag team champions as well, with the inclusion of Dax and Cash, something we're seeing a lot of at the moment in real life. I know, so I've got to be really careful because I don't want to be copying them, because after all, this is fantasy booking, isn't it? So hopefully at some point we're going to be moving away from this. So you're going to have to stay tuned for that and how I managed to do that, to stay away from copying what's happening in real life. But in a good match, we have the Lucha Brothers defeating SCU in 1827. Pentagon Jr., who missed Halloween Havoc due to pull groin. He was only out for 3 days, which means he could compete this week. It's unfortunate that he was out of that match. You know, I think their match against Private Party would have been something special, but had to put Pac in there instead. So Pentagon returns to in-ring action and also gets the pin, beating SCU with that roll-up. And up next, Cody is sat behind a desk, dressed smartly, with 2 pieces of paper and a pen in front of him spread out. This past Saturday, I was put through hell against the Machine Brian Cage in one of the most brutal lights-out matches we've ever had here in AEW. I'm hurting, I'm bruised, but yet I'm impressed. Brian Cage showed not only me and Tony, but everyone that was watching that he deserves to be here, deserves to be All Elite. When you get a chance, Cage, I know you're watching, there is a contract waiting for you here, for you to sign. I'd be more than happy to shake your hands and welcome you aboard. Now on to other matters. CM Punk. I said that once I was done with Cage, I was coming for you. So an 87 for this segment. Ooh, that's got to be the best yet, hasn't it, for a Cody promo? It's got to be. 87. Almost busting into the 90s there. And this one ain't so good. It's exactly the same, but Cody goes on to, continues to say, we also have a contract for you, Phil. Not to be some road agent or a member backstage, but for you to step into the ring once again. Now we understand it's been a while for you since you've done so. There's probably a bit of ring rust, and that's okay. We're willing to offer you a few sessions at the Nightmare Factory, 1 or 2 tune-up matches on Dynamite, ultimately leading to Cody versus CM Punk at Full Gear. In failing to accept, you will be released from your current contract. Don't make us look like the dumbasses again. The contract is here at the AEW headquarters. Hope to hear from you soon. Cody stands up, adjusts his suit and leaves. So this gets a 68. Why it doesn't get another 80 or maybe even another 70 for Cody, I'm not sure. Did exactly the same, just the only thing that was different was the text in the box. So I'm not sure why it gets a 68. Is it because it's right next to one another? I felt not only because I was running out of space to write out, but I felt I had to split that one up as he was talking about Cage in the first segment and then CM Punk in the second. We move in to tonight's main event. In about that had great heat, decent wrestling. Jon Moxley, the AEW champion, does go over. He does defeat Sammy Guevara in 13:42 after a paradigm shift. Gets an 80. One of the best matches we've put on so far in this series. The best, of course, being Kenny Omega and Pentagon Jr. Sammy Guevara was penalised for stamina, trying to go all out, inconsistency. That's okay though, still young, still got a lot left to learn in the business, does Sammy Guevara. But an 80 is fantastic. And after the match, Jon Moxley's outside of the ring looking tired after a draining match. He watches Jericho climb into the ring with Jeff Cobb. He goes over and helps Sammy Guevara to his feet. He can be heard saying, "It's okay. You did your best." Jericho backs away and nods his head at Jeff Cobb, who charges at Sammy, spearing him. He then sends Sammy on a tour of the islands. What is this? Sammy G no longer in a circle? Both Santana and Ortiz rush out to the ring and are beside themselves at what they've just seen. Jericho and Cobb just leave. Both Santana and Ortiz help Sammy to his feet and help him out of the ring and up the ramp to the back. Jon Moxley's back in the ring to celebrate, but gets interrupted by MJF on the Tron. So what does this mean for Sammy Guevara? Jeff Cobb attacking Sammy Guevara. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below for that. The segment gets a 67. Jericho struggled when going off script. Again, here we are. You know, Jericho normally does well without a script, but this time he struggled without it. It's interesting. And for our final segment of the night, it is MJF. He's sat on the throne inside his mansion with a glass of wine. Isn't our AEW World Champion just the greatest? Jon Moxley, the creator of violence. The lunatic that... Oh, for God's sake, who the hell cares? Yeah, you beat Wardlow at Halloween Havoc, John. But he did his job brilliantly, because I can see you're hurting physically and mentally. The unforgivable steel played its part to perfection, and the fact I'm breathing down your neck to become the next AEW champion, I can see you don't like it. You're insecure with the fact that this 24-year-old kid is slowly but surely taking your spot. When all is said and done at Full Gear, when I challenge you and beat you for that title, you'll be nothing but a distant memory. For now though, because I can afford to, I'm going to sit back, sip some expensive wine, and enjoy watching you toil away. See you soon, Johnny. This gets a 69, the final segment of this week's edition of AEW Dynamite. So great main event in Jon Moxley and Sammy Guevara, which got an 80, but the last two segments, yeah, could have been a bit better, especially MJF's promo here, which got a 69. But saying that, we've just scored our best ever Dynamite so far. An overall rating of 80. Increasing our popularity in 24 regions. An 80 for an episode of Dynamite. That is incredible. I've got goosebumps sat here actually. An 80. The only other 80 that we got for a show was my first pay-per-view, which was All Out. I think it was the matches that obviously helped it on its way there. Let's go and see how we've done with the ratings, eh? So, we've done a 1.98. We had a total of 1.487 mil watching. That's got to have beaten NXT this week, hasn't it? Surely. A 1.98. 1.48. I think, is that one of our all-time? I will have to check that at some point on the top 100s. Let's go and see what NXT have done this week. So we've beaten them on show rating. They got 73. They got a 1.9 TV rating. They had a total of 1.483 million viewers. So we've only just beaten them again when it comes to viewers. What are the demos though, man? We need to know the demos. Looking at their card though, Ciampa defeating Kushida, Austin Theory, Joaquin Wilde to retain the NXT Championship title. So they had the NXT title on the line for this week's episode of NXT. That's an interesting one. Although saying that, we did have our champion in action in the main event with Jon Moxley, but his title wasn't on the line, of course. It's funny to note as well, over the last couple of weeks, they have been using interviews with Triple H. I think Shawn Michaels has been called up now, so we don't see him as much. But those interviews with Triple H have started to take quite the fall, getting a 64 for that, when they used to be up towards the, well, in the 70s at least. But anyway, that is it for this edition of AEW Dynamite here on TEW 2020. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see you all soon for AEW Dark.